Guess who's back in the house? I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. I am exhausted. I've been doing a lot of writing. This weekend, I went to San Francisco and I actually had to finalize an essay for an anthology that I'm a part of, which features queer writers of color. And that anthology will be published, I believe, in January of 2020. And so I'm so excited about that project. And then I actually had to write an article. Excuse me, I still have a cold. I had to write an article about a trans woman um, in LA who was fighting for her life due to crystal meth. And so that publication, let's see, we're in October. So it should be out November or December. And I will actually post that so you guys can read it. And so I am so excited about both of those projects. Um, and I am actually working on other writing projects that I hope um, to get out the beginning of next year. So look forward to the different writing projects that I'm working on. And so tonight I wanted to come on and talk about episode 6 of Dragula. It was supposed to come out Tuesday night, but it did not. And so it actually appeared on my Amazon Prime around 6 p.m. yesterday. And I couldn't do a review because I had to finalize this article yesterday. And so I'm coming on live right now to discuss. And so everyone is sitting in the boudoir and they all feel as if Hollow has been exterminated because she just looked really defeated the previous episode. And so, of course, Eva walks in and they start having a conversation about who has won which challenges. And so Eva has won 2 challenges, and Priscilla, uh, Dollya, and Landon have 1 challenge win. And so that leaves Louisiana and Maddelynn with 0 wins. And so, as they were talking about this, I thought that Maddelynn had should be afraid because, excuse me, Louisiana has at least been in the top 3, at least. I think she said 3 times, where I feel as if Maddelynn has not been in the top 3. And so for Maddelynn to really stay in the game, she needed to win today's challenge. And because Maddelynn, I feel like she kind of like fades in the background. I didn't know if she could rise to the challenge. And so there's actually an interesting conversation about Hollow, how with Hollow's last look, she had to explain it to the judges for them to understand the look. And I believe it was Dahli who stated that you shouldn't have to explain your drag or the story that you're trying to convey because you don't have time to sit with the audience when you're on stage. It should be understood immediately, or if it's not an immediate reaction during the performance, people should come to understand the story that you're trying to tell. And so someone else stated that, in order to make it in a drag competition, that you have to basically fine tune your drag through the lens of the judge's eye. And so they were really torn between those 2 different ideas. And I'm curious what you guys think about that. In order to survive on a drag show, should your look um, have enough detail um, that the judges should not be able to ask you what you're trying to sell, or should you really kind of like change yourself as an artist? Hi, G Sun. Um, Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, should you, as an artist, should you kind of like change who you are to really make it through a competition? And so I think that specifically on this show, that people kind of like the Erika Klash or the Yovska, who their look is very um, it it changes, but it's very specific to them. Like someone like Eva, I've seen Eva live twice, and she looked like a completely different person each time. Where she is someone who's somewhat of a chameleon. She could be a clown one day and then a punk rocker the next day. Yauska has the same mask, but with a different um, story that she's telling with that mask. And but you, when you see Yauska, you know exactly who she is. And so I thought that that was a very interesting conversation, that someone like a Yauska or Erika Clash, it is very difficult for them to stay in the competition um, because there isn't a lot of room for them to change their aesthetic because they are who they are. And so they are called to the main stage, and the Maxi Challenge is called the Operation Theater. And so the contestants have to, one, have a photo shoot in an abandoned hospital and convey a story not only to the photographer, but also to the camera. And the person who has the winning photo wins the challenge. And the look that they have to put together is called a hospital of horrors. And so a lot of people were kind of like going directly to kind of like, okay, hospital of horrors, nurse, doctor, or kind of like someone who has been experimented on. And so I couldn't wait to hear what their inspirations were going to be. Oh, I forgot to mention that the winner was going to win a two-page spread in Alternative Press magazine, which is also called AP magazine. And so I was curious people's inspirations. And so the contestants go back into the boudoir, and there is a copy of AP magazine, and I believe it's kind of like a letter that Drac wrote to the magazine, and Drac talks about his childhood and his relationship with his father, and how um, he felt that his father did not accept him, and because of that, um, he sought to create community and queer spaces, and those queer spaces helped him to help um, really create community. And I have been to a number of the Boulet Brother events throughout LA, and they are come as you are. Everyone is welcomed. I never felt like I was judged going to their events. I love that it's like this. It's like a family unit. It's like a sisterhood and a brotherhood when you go to their events. Like everyone is there to support, and it's they don't always feature kind of like um, kind of drag race contestants. There were a lot of contestants from the show um, that would be on stage. There were local drag queens. Um, excuse me. Um, but they're just such well curated events. And so any event of theirs that I can go to, I will go to the event. And they throw a legendary New Year's Eve party that's free in downtown LA. That is incredible. And I actually excuse me, I posted the video from New Year's Eve to my channel. If you haven't watched it, watch it. And so I really loved learning more about Drax's story through the letter in AP Magazine. And that allowed Louisiana to open up about her childhood. When she was 16, she started experiencing flu like symptoms. And so her mother took her to a clinic, and the doctor assumed, based off of her appearance and voice, that she was gay and might have had unprotected sex with men. So the doctor leaves the room, and her mother says, if you have AIDS, I am going to kick you out of the house and you will have to survive on your own at 16. I could not imagine being in a situation like that. Like that was just heartbreaking to hear. Fortunately, Louisiana, um, well, not for it's kind of like unfortunate, but it was actually Lyme disease, and so she was allowed to stay in her home. Um, but because of that experience, um, it left her not wanting to really express herself around her family and feeling disconnected. And she felt as if she couldn't really live her life. And it was only until the age of 36 that she could really express herself and start to live an authentic life. And she says that drag saved her. That when she performed on stage, she felt truly alive. And like, what an incredible story. Um, just like my heart goes out to like the more Louisiana talks, the more I love her. Just such an incredible queen, and I can't wait to see her perform. Well, to see her perform live again. Um, but she is an incredible performer, by the way. And so she says this great line. Excuse me. She says this great line that queer people have a strength. You can see it in their face. We have to go through a lot in this world, and that is so true. Queer people, no matter your race, no matter your class, no matter your education, go through a lot to feel accepted and wanted in this world. And it's sad. I can't wait to get to a place where sexuality does not matter, that also race does not matter, that it's not a hindrance, it's not something that people automatically think about when they see you. I doubt that that'll happen in my lifetime, but I feel like with the younger generation that it's happening. And so the contestants finally start talking about their looks, and Maddelynn says that she is inspired by um, sexy female killers, I believe, in no, the sexy female element in horror movies, and then demonic killers. But I felt like she said that for one of her other previous looks, so I knew that she was in trouble um, from that description. I was really curious about Dollya. She has this really cool leech prosthetic that she said was inspired by Shutter Island. In Shutter Island, which I watched the movie and I had to turn it off at a certain point because I felt like it was just like one mind game that I was tired of participating in. And so, but I realized sometimes like great art can be difficult to experience. So I finished it, but I don't remember leeches in Shutter Island, and so I have to like rewatch this to remember the leeches. But great movie. I think you have to watch it 3 or 4 times to really understand what's going on. And so we go to the floor show, and the Boulet Brothers look incredible. Um, it reminds me of kind of like the movies from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s where they imagine the future and their looks are very retro futuristic. They're wearing all white, excuse me, leather gowns with white leather gloves. And they have these really cool kind of like anime inspired wigs that are white and black with like kind of like black highlights and these cool T-bars like swoops um that just was giving me everything that I needed. So they looked incredible. So the judges are Paige Owens, who works for Alternative Press Magazine, and Millie, I forget her last name, from Hereditary. I don't know if you guys have watched Hereditary. It is one of the most disturbing movies I've ever watched in my life. And I just watched a very disturbing Austrian movie called Goodnight Mommy, which I had to turn it off at a certain point because it was just too much. Um, Hereditary, I actually refused to watch like the last 15 minutes of it because it was too much. It was too much to take in. And that little girl, if I was if I'm ever in a room with her, I would run because of just the incredible acting job that she did in that movie. Um, the movie's terrifying. And so I was actually really excited that she was on this show. They have really elevated the show and the brand this season. So kudos to the Boulet Brothers for really bringing in strong guest judges. And so first we have Maddelynn, and I wasn't impressed with her look. It seemed very costumey, like it could be purchased at Party City. And so if I can afford to buy your costume, it's probably not a good look because I am broke. Um, but her makeup looked flawless. I think this is the best she's looked the entire season. She looked really beautiful. I love the contouring. I love the pop of colors. She looked really good. The wig looked really different though when she was teasing it to it being on stage. It looked like it kind of like flattened somehow. So I didn't love it. I didn't like the reveals, and the editing is really weird with her costume because at one point it looked like we could see kind of like burned flesh, and then we don't see it, and then we see it again, and then we don't see it. So the editing for her part was really weird, and I don't like all of the crazy um, angles when they do the floor shows because sometimes we kind of like miss the outfit. And so I really wish that instead of her wearing that costume, that she would have wore like, I mean, because like she said that she was a demonic killing doctor, and so I wish she would have kind of like moved away from that kind of like classic doctor look to something that's untraditional. Like I wish she would have went kind of like more period doctor than traditional doctor in a white coat, which it wasn't really a coat. But I wish she would have kind of like, done something different. Um, Eva is next. I wasn't impressed with her. I felt like something was missing from her garment, even though I liked the idea of it. But just something felt missing. Yeah, and it was I don't know, just something was odd about the look. Um, it was I needed more color in it, because it just even though it was kind of like blood everywhere, it was just kind of like the white part of it um, wasn't messy enough. I don't know. I needed more dirt or filth or something. Um, Louisiana's vintage nurse look, it could have been on the cover of Vogue. Like the actual like costume was perfect. I'm loving Louisiana in these soft pinks because it's not what you expect. And I love that she chose this look because immediately when you saw it, you could recognize who this person was. I love the reveal from kind of with the scarf, with these kind of like choke marks around her neck. I loved the cart, and everything on the cart was pink, and so I love that. Um, she had a great story, and so I immediately recognized the character that she was portraying. Landon, top two of the week. Landon executes a character with precision. You always know who Landon is playing. There's never a doubt in your mind the character. Um, Landon is a mad scientist obsessed with gaining super intelligence and experiments on people in order to increase his intelligence. He painted the book cover incredible. He made the brain, the exposed brain, incredible. I'm curious what Landon does like for work. Like if he actually makes like prosthetic pieces, if he's like a set designer. Landon is incredibly talented. Um, just everything about his look was on point. Um, Dollya looked very editorial, and she looked beautiful. Um, I actually could see her in a magazine. However, I felt like something was missing from her look. And Priscilla, again because of like the crazy camera angles, I couldn't really see her look. I love the execution of it. But when they were actually on stage, I felt like she needed more time to prep the look. But I will say that her makeup looked incredible. What she drew for her paint is actually what she looked like. Um, but I felt like there was something missing in her body paint. Like maybe she should have wore kind of like some type of body suit, um, and not have her skin exposed. I think that could have been a better look. So the hospital photo shoot, everyone killed it. Um, there wasn't one bad photo. Actually, Madelynn's photo actually was one of my favorites. just because it was just more focused on her face. And, there have been a lot of comments about kind of just her ability to kind of like float through the season. But you gotta admit, she's a gorgeous girl. She's really beautiful. Um, Landon wins the challenge, and Louisiana, Dollya, and Eva are safe, which means Maddelynn and Priscilla are in the bottom. For this week's extermination, they have to play like an oversized version of the game Operation, but they're hooked up to these electrical devices that their goal is to remove a body part from a tiny space. But if the instrument that they're using, if it touches the side of the space, they get an electrical shock. I don't know if I could do that because those shocks seemed painful. But I loved watching it. Um, Priscilla had like the best reactions during the whole extermination. And so, kind of like I had a feeling. Um, so we learn in later in the episode that Maddelynn is exterminated. Her extermination was brilliant, and I wasn't expecting it. And so there is a very disturbing scene in Hereditary early on in the movie where Millie's character, if you haven't seen Hereditary and you want to see it, pause, skip this part of the video because it's a spoiler alert. I'll wait. So, um, there's a scene where Millie's brother is driving a car and he's taken Millie to this party that he wasn't supposed to take her to. And she's having some type of reaction to something that she ate, and she's trying to uh, get air. And so she rolls down the back seat car window to get some air, and there's something in the road that the brother sees, and he kind of like swerves the car, and he's going towards like this like telephone pole, and Millie is decapitated. And so they recreate this scene where it looks like Drax's hands. Drax is driving down a dark LA road, and Maddelynn wakes up in the back seat and is trying to get fresh air and sticks her head out of the window, and they hit a tree and she's decapitated. And so this was a great episode. I really loved it. Um, I love learning more about Drac. I love learning more about Louisiana. And I really enjoyed the conversation about um, like drag and ways to stay on a drag show. And so I'm curious. So now we have this is what is this? The one, two, three. Wait, we have what five? Top five now, and so we're getting closer to top three. And so I'm curious now, who do you guys will think the top three will be? I have a feeling it's going to be Eva, Landon, and Priscilla. I think those are going to be the top three. Uh, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And so this concludes my video. I hope that you guys enjoy the review, and hopefully next week we don't have to wait so long for the show to appear on Amazon Prime. I looked on Twitter all day Tuesday to see if Amazon would respond to literally the thousands of comments from people all over the world who were pissed that the episode didn't appear when it was supposed to. And so Amazon is not responding to any of the comments. And I'm actually curious about the Boulet Brothers. They were going to have a tour with some contestants from all previous seasons, and then suddenly it was canceled. And so um, they're remaining kind of like hush hush about it. But if any of you guys know anything about it, let me know. So until next time, be kind to everyone in the community, especially our trans brothers and sisters, because they are the most vulnerable. Until next time, have a lovely day, guys. Besos. Mwah.